Hi, dear friends. I'm going to continue reading the Heart of the Understanding, um, Prajnaparamita text, commentary by Thich Nhat. In the last chapter, the last one we read was about roses and garbage, how both of them are equally worthy, I suppose. That garbage is not bad and roses are not good. And this binary, this dichotomy kind of creates the inequality, right? And like he said, the rose is the garbage and the non-prostitute is the prostitute. And the rich man is the very poor man, poor woman, and the Buddhist is the non-Buddhist. And Black Lives Matter is the white supremacy, right? Like the Black Lives Matter is made out of white supremacy, right? And so how they're all inextricably linked, right? So today, what we're going to be reading is called "The Moon is Always the Moon," and it's a short one, and then I'll try to read the next chapter as well. Neither increasing nor decreasing. We worry because we think that after we die, we will not be a human being anymore. We will go back to being a speck of dust. In other words, we're decreasing. But that is not true. A speck of dust contains the whole universe. If we were big, as big as the sun, we might look down at the earth and see it as insignificant. As human beings, we look at the dust in the same way, but the ideas of big and small are just concepts in our mind. Everything contains everything else. That is the principle of interpenetration. This sheet of paper contains the sunshine, the logger, the forest, everything. So the idea that a sheet of paper is small or insignificant is just an idea. We cannot destroy even one sheet of paper. We're incapable of destroying anything. When they assassinated Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King, they hoped to reduce him into nothingness. But these people continue to be with us, perhaps even more than before, because they continue in other forms. We ourselves continue in their being. So let us not be afraid of decreasing. It is like the moon. We see the moon increasing and decreasing, but it is always the moon. And the next chapter is Buddha is made of non-Buddha elements. And in the Sutra it says, therefore in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, nor perceptions, nor mental formations, no consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of elements from eye to mind consciousness, no interdependent origins and no extinction of them from ignorance to old age and death. No suffering, no origination of suffering, no extinction of suffering, no path, no understanding, no attainment. So beautiful, right? So this sentence begins with a confirmation that the 5 skandhas are all empty. This 5 aggregates of form, perception, and feelings and concepts and stuff like that. They cannot exist by themselves. Each one has to be interbeing with all the other skandhas. The next part of the sentence is an enumeration of the 18 realms of elements or dhatus. First, we have the 6 sense organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Then there are the 6 sense objects: form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and object of mind. And form is the object of the eyes, sound is the object of ears, and so on and so on. Finally, the contact between these first 12 brings about the 6th, consciousness. When the eye meets the form and they have an interaction, the observation happens, and then there's a consciousness of the sight, right? Sight, hearing, and the last is the mind consciousness. So with the eyes as the first realm of elements and mind consciousness as the 18th, this part of the sutra is saying that not one of these realms can exist by itself, because each can only interbe with every other realm. The next part speaks of the 12 interdependent origin, pratya samutpata. which begin with ignorance and end with old age and death. The meaning in the sutra is that none of these 12 can exist by itself. It can only rely on the being of the other in order for it to be. Therefore, all of them are empty. And because they're empty, they really exist. The same principle applies to the Four Noble Truths. No suffering, no origination of suffering, no extinction of suffering, no path. The last item on the list is no understanding, no attainment. Understanding prajna is the essence of the Buddha. No understanding means understanding has no separate existence. Understanding is made of non-understanding elements, such as Buddha is made of non-Buddha elements. I want to tell you a story about Buddha and Mara. One day the Buddha was in his cave and Ananda, who was the Buddha's assistant, was standing outside near the door. Suddenly, Ananda saw Mara coming. He was surprised. He didn't want that, and he wished Mara would get lost. So Mara walked straight to Ananda and asked him to announce his visit to the Buddha. Ananda said, "Why have you come here? Don't you remember that in olden times you were defeated by the Buddha under the Bodhi tree? Aren't you ashamed to come here? Go away. The Buddha will not see you. You're evil. You're his enemy." When Mara heard this, he began to laugh and laugh. "Did you say that your teacher told you that he has enemies?" That made Ananda very embarrassed. He knew that his teacher has not said that he had enemies. So Ananda was defeated and had to go in and announce the visit of Mara, hoping that the Buddha would say, "Go and tell him that I'm not here. Tell him that I'm in a meditation or a meeting." But the Buddha was very excited when he heard that Mara, such a very old friend, had come to visit him. "Is that true? Is he really here?" the Buddha said, and he went out in person to greet Mara. Ananda was very distressed. The Buddha went right up to Mara, bowed to him, and took his hands in the warmest way. The Buddha said, "Hello, how are you? How have you been? Is everything all right?" Mara didn't say anything, so the Buddha brought him into the cave, prepared a seat for him to sit down, and told Ananda to go and make some herb tea for both of them. "I can make tea for my master 100 times a day, but making tea for Mara is not a joy," Ananda thought to himself. But since this was the order of his master, how could he refuse? So Ananda went to prepare some herb tea for the Buddha and his so-called guests. But while doing this, he tried to listen to their conversation. The Buddha repeated very warmly, "How have you been? How are things with you?" Mara said, "Oh, things are not going very well at all. I'm tired of being a Mara. I want to be something else." Ananda became very frightened. Mara said, "You know, being a Mara is not a very easy thing to do. If you talk, you have to talk in riddles. If you do anything, you have to be tricky and look evil. I'm very tired of all that. But what I cannot bear is my disciples. They're now talking about social justice, peace, equality, liberation, non-duality, non-violence, all of that. I have had enough of it. I think that it would be better if I hand them all over to you. I want to be something else." Ananda began to shudder because he was afraid that the master would decide to take the other role. Mara would become the Buddha and the Buddha would become Mara. It made him very sad. The Buddha listened attentively and was filled with compassion. Finally, he said in a quiet voice, "Do you think it's fun being a Buddha? You don't know what my disciples had done to me. They put words into my mouth that I never said. They built garish temples and put statues of me on altars in order to attract bananas and oranges and sweet rice just for themselves. And they packaged me and my teaching into an item of commerce. Mara, if you knew what it is really like to be a Buddha, I'm sure you won't want to be one." And thereupon, the Buddha recited a long verse summarizing the conversation. Perfect, right? Perfect teaching. It brings such perspective to what we're going through, They hear the Mara in this social justice and context right now with the movement that's happening. It represents a white supremacy, right? The confusion, all that stuff. And now we're all saying we don't want that. We want to give up. We want liberation. We don't want to do that. But in what ways are we doing it, right? In so many ways, if we are followers of Dharma and then we have hatred inside, and then we're using spiritual words to, take one side over another. It's, justice and hatred is different, right? Like justice is like, bringing accounting system. And then there's a hatred, right, from inside, the separation, the looking down, the otherness, right? And then we kind of take them out of our heart, right? And forget that they're also humans, who we are, who are just as ourselves struggling, in the game of oppress and oppressor, nobody's winning, both are losing. And so we have to come home to, harmony, and harmony needs justice, without hating and without really getting caught up in the duality and not swing to the other side of the polarity, right? We don't want the oppressed here today, don't want to become the oppressor. That would be such a, such a tragic and heartbreaking experience, having been the oppressed and now you become the oppressor. And so what was the point? What did we learn? And nothing, we just were reactive, like, all that righteousness, what was it for if we became the oppressor once we have a little bit of power? So anyways, I thought this was such a wonderful teaching to go through it. And if you are, adorned with a white skin and bought into the white supremacy stuff, you also get a chance and space to dismantle this and not give up on yourself. And as a society, we're all evolving, growing, and we can all do this together. And it just takes dedication and diligence and willingness to really inquire and penetrate, into a deep understanding. And texts like these are so helpful. And then currently I'm reading Sonia Renee Taylor's The Body is Not an Apology. So good. Teachings like this and that, it's just like, goes complements so beautifully. What does it look like in embodied, feminine wisdom tradition? And she does it so beautifully, so fierce, so spicy, and so potent and juicy and full of love and clarity and courage and, just divine. Okay. Anyways, enjoy. Sonia Renee Taylor's book is called The Body is Not an Apology. And this is The Heart of Understanding, Prashna Paramita commentary. And I hope you all enjoy it. Okay, love you.